In the dim, echoing corridors of the Los Angeles County Jail, where the air hung heavy with the scent of bleach and regret, Luna Nozawa paced the narrow confines of her cell, her hand instinctively cradling the subtle swell of her belly. The orange jumpsuit felt like a second skin of shame, a far cry from the silk blouses and designer heels she'd once imagined draping over her frame in a life of luxury beside Will Spencer. It had been mere days since Electra Forrester, that sanctimonious little witch with her wide-eyed innocence and vengeful streak, had picked up the phone and summoned the authorities. "She's a monster," Electra had whispered into the receiver, her voice trembling with the raw edge of betrayal, as if Luna's very existence threatened the fragile tapestry of the Forrester legacy. Now, here Luna was, back behind bars, the cold metal bars casting long shadows that danced mockingly across the concrete floor. She pressed her forehead against the chill of the wall, whispering to the unborn child within her, "You and me, little one. We're fighters. Your daddy's going to see that soon enough. He'll come for us." But deep down, a gnawing doubt clawed at her resolve. Will's face, twisted in horror when the truth of her deceptions unraveled, haunted her dreams. The paternity test had confirmed it. This baby was his, conceived in a haze of her calculated seduction, a moment she now romanticized as destiny's cruel twist. Yet, in the harsh light of reality, it felt more like a noose tightening around her neck. Across town, in the opulent sprawl of the Spencer mansion, Katie Logan paced the marble-floored living room, her heels clicking like accusatory metronomes against the polished surface. Bill Spencer lounged on the leather sofa, nursing a tumbler of scotch that caught the afternoon sun filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific. Their son Will sat rigidly in an armchair, his young face etched with lines no 20-something should bear, staring at the paternity results clutched in his fist like a death warrant. "I can't believe this," Will muttered, his voice cracking like thin ice underfoot. "She's carrying my child, Dad. My child. And now she's locked up like some animal because of what she did to me, to us." Bill set his glass down with a deliberate clink, leaning forward, his piercing blue eyes locking onto his son's. "Listen to me, Will. That woman manipulated you, drugged you, lied to you from the moment she slithered into our lives. This baby. It's innocent in all this madness, but Luna. She's poison. We protect what's ours." Katie whirled on them both, her blonde hair whipping like a flag in a storm, fire blazing in her eyes. "Exactly. And that's why I've already spoken to my lawyers. The moment that baby draws its first breath, we're filing for full custody. No visitation, no holidays, nothing. Luna doesn't get to taint another generation with her chaos." Will's head snapped up, his jaw tightening. "Mom, you can't just erase her. That's my kid in there. What if I want to know it? What if I can forgive?" Bill let out a bark of laughter, sharp and devoid of humor. "Forgive? Son, she raped you under the influence of who knows what cocktail she whipped up in that Nozawa witch's kitchen. Forgiveness is for saints, and we're Spencers, we fight dirty to win." Katie knelt before Will, her hand gentle on his knee, her voice softening to a velvet blade. "We're doing this for you, darling. For the family. Imagine that child growing up in a home filled with love, stability, not shadows of prison visits and mommy's murder rap sheet." Will's eyes glistened, torn between the visceral pull of impending fatherhood and the revulsion that still churned in his gut at the memory of Luna's touch. But what if something happens to her in there? To them? I couldn't live with that on my conscience. Katie's expression hardened, a flicker of something darker crossing her features, guilt, perhaps, or the unyielding resolve of a mother bear. "Then we'll be there to pick up the pieces. But mark my words, Will, Luna's digging her own grave." Meanwhile, at the Forrester Creations office, the air buzzed with the frenetic energy of a fashion empire on the brink of its next collection launch, but beneath the glossy veneer, tension simmered like a pot left too long on the boil. Steffy Forrester Finnegan burst through the double doors, her designer tote slung over one shoulder, haze balanced on her hip, and Kelly trailing behind with a pout that could melt steel. She'd cut her European business trip short, the call from Finn about Luna's resurrection pulling her back to LA like a siren's wail. "Finn. Where is he?" she demanded of the receptionist, her voice a whipcrack that silenced the typing pool. John Finnegan emerged from his makeshift office in the medical wing, his scrubs rumpled, exhaustion carving hollows under his eyes. He pulled her into a fierce embrace, Hayes gurgling happily between them as Kelly tugged at his pant leg. "Steffy, thank God you're home. It's a nightmare. Luna's alive, pregnant, and now she's back in jail. The whole city's on fire with it." Steffy pulled back, her green eyes narrowing to slits. "Alive? After that cliff plunge? I knew it. That woman's got 9 lives and a vendetta to match. And pregnant. With whose spawn this time?" Finn hesitated, rubbing the back of his neck, the weight of the revelation pressing down like an anvil. "Will's. The test confirmed it. Bill and Katie are gunning for custody already." Steffy's laugh was brittle, echoing off the glass walls. "Of course they are. Spencer's protecting their bloodline. But what about us? She came after me, Finn, tried to end everything we have. If she's behind bars, great, but what if she weasels her way out? Or worse, what if prison turns her into some martyr?" Finn guided her to a quiet corner, Kelly now perched on his knee as Hayes gnawed on a teething ring. "Ridge and Mom have been on the warpath. Taylor's even siding with Brooke on this one, united front to keep Luna locked up tight. No bail, no deals. But Steffy, the baby's innocent. Will's a mess over it." She crossed her arms, the posture of a lioness guarding her pride. "Innocent or not, that child is a tie to her. A chain that could drag us all back into hell. Tell me you're with me on this, Forresters first, always." Finn nodded slowly, his surgeon's hand steadying her shoulders. "Always. But let's focus on us right now. Welcome home, love." Their lips met in a kiss laced with urgency, a brief respite in the gathering storm, even as Steffy's mind raced ahead to the shadows lurking in Luna's cell. Back at the jail, the visitation room was a sterile box of fluorescent hum and plexiglass dividers, where Poppy Nozawa sat ramrod straight on the uncomfortable metal stool, her fingers drumming a staccato rhythm on the countertop. She'd aged a decade in the week since learning her daughter was not only alive but thriving in deception, her once soft features now sharpened by bitterness and a mother's fractured pride. The buzzer sounded, and Luna shuffled in, cuffs clinking like morbid jewelry, guided by a burly guard whose eyes lingered a beat too long on her form. She slid into the seat opposite, picking up the phone with a hand that trembled despite her bravado. "Mom. You came. I knew you would. This place, it's hell, but for the baby, I'll endure." Poppy's gaze was ice, her voice through the receiver a hiss of controlled venom. "Endure."
That's rich coming from you, Luna. You faked your death, terrorized the Forresters, seduced that poor boy into fatherhood while he was out of his mind. And now, you're playing the victim card with my grandchild, your grandchild, in your belly. Luna's eyes welled, but she leaned closer, pressing her palm against the glass as if she could bridge the chasm. "It wasn't like that, Mom. Will loves me. I felt it. The baby's our bridge, our second chance. You of all people should understand redemption. Lee threw us away, but the Spencers, they're different." Poppy's laugh was a jagged shard, cutting through the line. "Redemption? You're a gold digger, plain and simple. Always have been, ever since you eyed those Forrester jewels like they were your birthright. I came here to tell you face to face, stay away from that child. Bill and Katie are circling like sharks. They'll snatch it up the second it's born. Raise it right, without your taint." Luna recoiled as if slapped, her free hand flying to her abdomen protectively. "You'd let them take my baby? Your blood? After everything we've been through, the lies, the losses, you'd abandon me again?" Poppy's expression cracked, just for a moment, revealing the raw ache beneath her armor. I didn't abandon you, Luna. You abandoned sanity. This baby's better off without a mother who murders and manipulates. Consider this my final visit. Get your house in order or don't. But don't drag the innocent into your abyss. The guard tapped Poppy's shoulder then, signaling time's end, and as she rose, Luna banged on the glass, tears streaming. Mom. Wait. Please. I need you. But Poppy walked away without looking back, her heels echoing down the hall like the tolling of a funeral bell, leaving Luna slumped, sobbing into the receiver's dead line. Word of Luna's predicament rippled through the Nozawa family like a stone skipped across a poisoned pond. Lee Finnegan, ever the iron-fisted matriarch, stood in her sleek kitchen overlooking the city skyline, a cup of chamomile tea cooling untouched in her manicured hands. The phone call from Poppy had been brief, laced with accusations that Lee had long since learned to deflect like arrows off armor. She's in jail again, Lee, pregnant with some Spencer's bastard. And you? You'll wash your hands of it all, won't you? Poppy's voice had cracked over the line, but Lee's response was steel. I washed my hands of her the day she chose deception over family. You enabled her, Poppy. Your free-spirited nonsense bred this monster. Don't come crying to me now. She hung up abruptly, but the echo of those words lingered, stirring a disquiet she refused to name. Now, as Finn entered, shedding his coat with a weary sigh, Lee turned to him, her surgeon's precision in every gesture. Your sister's back in the news, Finn. Luna. Prison stripes suit her, I suppose. Finn paused, pouring himself coffee, his brow furrowing. Mom, come on. She's family, twisted as it is. And the baby's, well, it's Will's. Innocent life. Lee set her cup down with a clatter, her eyes flashing. Innocent. That child is a product of violation, Finn. Luna drugged that boy, trapped him in her web. You think I don't see the parallels to your own battles with Sheila? Blood doesn't buy absolution. Finn leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. Maybe not, but Steffi's furious. Wants Luna buried under the jail. Ridge is rallying everyone. Even Taylor's on board. But what about you? Under all that ice, do you ever wonder if we could have saved her? Lee's laugh was mirthless, her voice dropping to a whisper. Saved her? We tried, Finn. Poppy with her herbs and hugs, me with structure and slaps. Luna chose the dark. Now, let the Spencers deal with their folly. Focus on your own. Steffi's home. Hayes and Kelly need their father whole. Finn nodded, but as he pulled her into a hug, he felt the tremor in her frame, the unacknowledged grief of a mother who lost a daughter long before the cuffs clicked shut. I love you, Mom. We'll get through this. Lee patted his back stiffly, pulling away. We always do. Nozawas endure, or we don't. As dusk painted the city in bruised purples and golds, Electra Forrester slipped into the dimly lit confessional booth of St. Victor's Cathedral, the scent of incense and old wood wrapping around her like a shroud. Her hands twisted the rosary beads, knuckles white, as guilt gnawed at her insides sharper than any thorn. Calling the cops on Luna had felt righteous in the heat of the moment, revenge for the terror she'd inflicted on Steffi, the aunt who'd become her rock, justice for Will, the boy she'd harbored a quiet crush on since their shared afternoons sketching designs in the Forrester atelier. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned, she whispered, her voice a fragile thread in the velvet hush. I turned in a pregnant woman. A mother. But she deserved it. She tried to kill my family. The priest's silhouette shifted behind the lattice, his tone gentle as aged wine. Child, justice, and mercy walk hand in hand. What weighs on your heart? Electra's tears fell hot and unbidden, splashing onto the worn kneeler. The baby. What if something happens in that place? Guards roughing her up. Inmates with grudges. I saw the headlines, Father. Prisons aren't kind to women like her. Beautiful, broken, carrying life. The priest murmured absolution, but as Electra emerged into the nave, genuflecting before the glowing altar, her phone buzzed insistently. It was Hope Logan, her voice a lifeline through the speaker. Electra? It's all over the tabs. Luna attacked? Rumors flying about a Shiv in the showers. You okay? Electra sank onto a pew, the cool stone biting through her jeans. I did this, Hope. I called them. Now her baby's in the crosshairs and he's blaming me, I think. Says I put his child in danger. Hopes I carried the weight of her own tangled heart, fresh from another round of romantic whiplash with Liam. Guilt's a beast, kid. But Luna brought this on herself. You protected your own, that's Forrester blood. Come over, we'll talk it out with some ice cream and bad TV. Electra managed a watery smile, pocketing the phone. Thanks, Hope. You're the sister I never knew I needed. As she stepped into the twilight, the city's hum swallowed her footsteps, but the whisper of what-ifs lingered. What if her call had doomed more than just Luna? Deep within the jail's labyrinthine bowels, the women's block slumbered uneasily under the watchful eyes of flickering security cams, but sleep was a luxury Luna couldn't afford. The other inmates, hardened souls with tattoos mapping their scars and eyes that gleamed with opportunistic hunger, had sized her up from day one. Fresh meat. A burly woman with a shaved head and a scar bisecting her lip had sneered during lunch, her tray clattering as she leaned in too close. Heard you're some rich bitch's plaything. Forrester connections, huh? Think that buys you friends in here. Luna had forced a smile then, channeling the poise Poppy had taught her through yoga breaths and affirmations, but now, in the witching hour, fear coiled like smoke in her lungs. She lay on the thin mattress, one arm draped over her belly, listening to the symphony of snores and distant cries. The baby kicked, a Morse code of reassurance or warning, and she hummed a lullaby her mother once sang, the notes fracturing in the gloom. Suddenly, the cell door creaked open with a hydraulic whine, and a shadow detached from the guard's silhouette, a wiry inmate named Carla, her eyes hollowed by meth and malice, slipping through like a specter. Nozawa, she hissed, her voice gravel wrapped in silk. Word is you're knocked up with Spencer Gold. Big man outside, right? Bet he'd pay big to keep his heir safe. Luna bolted upright, heart hammering, backing against the wall. What do you want? Money? I don't have any in here. Carla advanced, a makeshift blade glinting in the low light, a sharpened toothbrush, wicked and improvised. Nah, just a message. Some chick on the outside, blonde fancy, paid good for you to miscarry, said you're a threat to her boy's future. Lights out for the little prince. Luna's blood ran cold, her mind flashing to Katie's steely gaze, the custody threats. Lies. No one would, but Carla lunged, the Shiv arcing toward her midsection, and Luna twisted, screaming as the blade grazed her arm, hot pain blooming like a rose. Alarms wailed, boots thundered down the hall, and guards swarmed, wrenching Carla away in a tangle of limbs and curses. You tell your sugar mama it didn't work. Carla spat as they dragged her off, her laughter echoing like breaking glass. Luna curled fetal on the floor, blood seeping through her fingers, the baby still and silent within. No, no, please, she gasped to the empty air as medics rushed in, their voices a blur of urgency. The baby? Check the baby. News of the attack spread faster than wildfire through the tinder-dry gossip mills of LA's elite, hitting the Spencer mansion like a thunderclap at dawn. Bill slammed the morning edition of the LA Times onto the breakfast table, the headline screaming in bold, "Prison assault on pregnant inmate rocks high society ties." Katie looked up from her yogurt, spoon frozen midair, her face paling to ash. Oh God, well, it's Luna. They say she was stabbed. The babies, they don't know yet. Will, already dressed for a day of damage control at Spencer Publications, froze in the doorway, the color draining from his cheeks. Stabbed? For what? Because of me. Because of us. He snatched the paper, scanning the grainy photo of the jail's exterior, his voice rising in pitch. This is insane. Who would target her like that? Inmates don't just shank someone for kicks. Bill rose, clapping a hand on his son's shoulder, his grip firm as granite. Easy, son. Police are investigating. Could be random. Prison's a jungle. But if it's tied to... He trailed off, eyes flicking to Katie, who met his gaze with a defiance that bordered on desperation. Don't look at me like that, Bill. I wanted her out of our lives, not dead. Custody battles don't involve hit jobs. Will whirled on her, anguish twisting his features. Then who, Mom? Electra? She hates Luna. Called the cops that got her locked up. Or maybe it's the Forresters, protecting their precious Steffy from any more drama. Katie recoiled, setting her bowl down with a clatter. Electra's a child, a grieving one at that. And the Forresters? They're too busy canonizing Rich to orchestrate prison hits. This is fallout from Luna's own sins catching up. Bill steered Will to a chair, pouring black coffee with ritualistic calm. We're not pointing fingers yet, but we are going down there. Doctors, lawyers, whatever it takes to get eyes on that baby. If it's viable, we fight harder for custody. If not, his voice thickened, unspoken grief hanging heavy. Will buried his face in his hands, shoulders shaking. If not, it's on me. I let her in, Dad. Believed her lies. Now my child's paying the price. Katie slid beside him, wrapping an arm around his waist, her whisper fierce. No, darling. We're the Spencers. We turn tragedy to triumph. That baby's coming home to us one way or another. Outside, the city awoke oblivious. But in that sunlit room, vows were forged in fire, binding them tighter than blood. At the hospital, under the merciless glare of surgical lights, Luna lay on the gurney, monitors beeping a frantic tattoo that mirrored her pulse. The ER doc, a harried woman with salt and pepper hair and eyes kind as they were weary, adjusted the ultrasound wand, peering at the grainy screen. Stable vitals, Ms. Nozawa. The placenta's intact. No penetration. Baby's heartbeat strong at 150 BPM. You're a fighter. You and that little one. Luna exhaled a shuddering breath, tears carving rivers down her pallid cheeks, her bandaged arm throbbing in rhythm with the news. Thank you, God. Doctor, please tell the father. Will Spencer. He needs to know. The doc nodded, jotting notes, but her expression clouded. Family's en route. But listen, prison transfers you back tomorrow if all clears. Watch your back in there. As the woman bustled out, Poppy slipped in unannounced, her face a mask of reluctant compassion. She hovered at the bedside, hands fluttering like wounded birds. Luna. I heard. That call last night? I didn't mean. Luna turned her head, eyes red-rimmed but blazing. Didn't mean what, Mom? To write me off? Some inmate said a fancy blonde paid for this. Sound familiar? Katie Logan, playing God from her penthouse. Poppy sank into the chair, wringing her hands. Katie? No, she's ruthless, but not murderous. This is deeper. Jealousy fear. The Forresters want you silenced. The Spencers want the baby erased from your touch. Luna laughed weakly, wincing at the pull of stitches. Erased? This child's my redemption, Mom. Will's my anchor. If I lose it. Poppy reached for her hand, squeezing through the 4-line. You won't. Fight like I taught you, with heart, not schemes. But Luna, face it, love isn't a cage you build around a man. It's mutual. Will may never forgive. Luna's grip tightened, desperation etching her words. Then I'll make him. From in here if I have to. Write him letters, dream up a future. This baby's our proof, pure, untainted. Nurses interrupted then, wheeling in for more tests, but Poppy lingered, her parting whisper a balm and a barb. Be careful what you wish for, daughter. Purity's fragile in our world. Word reached the Forrester matriarchs like a poison dart at their impromptu summit in Brooke's cliff house, where the ocean crashed below like applause for chaos. Brooke Logan paced the sun-drenched deck, her silk robe billowing, while Taylor Hayes perched on a wicker chair, legs crossed, a glass of Pinot Grigio sweating in her hand. Attacked? In prison? This is escalating, Taylor. Luna's a powder keg, and now the baby's collateral. Taylor sipped, her psychiatrists calm a thin veneer over maternal fury. Collateral? Brooke, she brought the match. Remember what she did to Steffy. Drugged, drowned, left for dead. If some inmate did the world a favor. Brooke spun, eyes widening. Favor? That's cold even for you. That child's innocent. Will's blood, Spencer's legacy. And if harm comes to it because of our feuds. Taylor set her glass down, rising to meet her rival's gaze, the old spark of enmity flickering. Our feuds? This started with your son's gullibility, Brooke. Bill housed a killer. But find mercy then. We push for better protection, maybe witness something. Ridge is already on the phone with Baker. Brooke's phone chimed, Hope's name flashing. She answered, her voice softening. Honey, what's wrong? Hope's words tumbled out, breathless. Mom, it's Luna, the attack. Liam's freaking, says we need to help Will. But I ran to him last night, confessed everything. The doubts, the wedding jitters. Now this mess. Brooke glanced at Taylor, nodding Hope's in love again. Taylor rolled her eyes, but a smile tugged her lips. Tell her to breathe. Logan's chase hearts. Hayes heal them. Hanging up, Brooke leaned on the railing, the sea's rhythm soothing her frayed nerves. Our girls, always in the eye of the storm. But Luna? This could break everything wide open. Taylor joined her, shoulders brushing in rare solidarity. Or seal it shut. Either way, LA's about to burn brighter. In the shadowed underbelly of the jail's isolation wing, where whispers carried like contraband, Carla huddled in her solitary cell, nursing a split lip from the guard's reprisal. The Shiv confiscated, her payday from the mysterious blonde evaporated, but satisfaction lingered like cheap perfume. Bitch had it coming, she muttered to the walls, replaying the lunge, Luna's scream a symphony in her ears. Outside, in the pre-dawn fog, a sleek black sedan idled at the curb, its tinted window cracking just enough for a manicured hand to pass an envelope. Crisp bills, a nod of finality. The driver, a ghost in chauffeur's livery, didn't ask questions. The passenger, a silhouette of calculated elegance, murmured into her Bluetooth, It's done. No traces. But traces there were, faint as spider silk. A dropped earring, a security blind spot, a nurse's offhand remark to a reporter. The web tightened, unseen hands pulling strings, and as the sun crested the horizon, the bold and the beautiful awoke to a city teetering on revelation's edge. Will Spencer arrived at the hospital like a man pursued by furies, his tie askew, eyes wild with a cocktail of dread and defiance. He burst into Luna's room, ignoring the protests of the night nurse, and skidded to a halt at her bedside. She looked small there, fragile porcelain cracked but not shattered, the monitor's green glow casting ethereal light on her bruised face. Luna. God, what happened? The paper said. She stirred, eyes fluttering open, locking onto his with a hunger that pierced him. Will. You came. The baby's okay, the doc said so. Some crazy inmate. Hard muscle, probably. But we're safe now. He sank into the chair, elbows on knees, head in hands. Safe? You're in prison, Luna. Stabbed because of us. This baby's barely a whisper, and already the world's trying to snuff it out. She reached for him, fingers brushing his sleeve, electric as memory. Because they fear what we could be. A family will. You, me, our child. Spencer's strength with Nozawa fire. Don't let them win. He looked up, torn. The boyish charm she'd once exploited now raw with paternal ache. Family? You lied, manipulated, drugged me into this. How do I trust that? Luna's tears fell anew, but her voice held steady, a siren's call refined by suffering. You don't. Not yet. But feel this. She guided his hand to her belly, the flutter beneath undeniable, a heartbeat syncing with his own. That's trust building. Stay, Will. Fight for us. He didn't pull away, the touch anchoring him, even as alarms blared in his soul. Minutes stretched, then Bill and Katie stormed in, shattering the bubble. Will. And now Bill barked, his presence filling the room like thunder. Katie's eyes darted to Luna, narrowing. You look cozy. Convenient timing this attack. Luna met her stare, chin lifting. Jealous, Katie? Your son's here for his child, not your puppet. Chaos erupted, voices overlapping, accusations flying, until security intervened, herding the Spencers out. But Will lingered at the door, glancing back, the seed of doubt or hope planted deep. Across the divide, Steffi cradled Hayes in the nursery's soft lamplight, rocking gently as the baby's eyelids drooped. Finn watched from the doorway, arms crossed, his mind a whirlwind of Hippocratic oaths and heartfelt vows. She's stable, the baby's fine. But Steffi, Will's there, holding vigil. It's pulling him apart. Steffi rose, laying Hayes in the crib, turning to her husband with fire in her veins. Good. Let it. Luna's a vortex, sucks in the weak. But our family's ironclad. No room for her shadows. Finn stepped closer, cupping her face. Ironclad? Even when family bleeds into foe. Lee's crumbling, Poppy's scheming. This ripples everywhere. She kissed him fiercely, grounding them both. Then we stand firm. Forresters don't bend. Yet, as they slipped into bed, the city's lights twinkling like distant warnings, Steffy whispered into the dark, "But what if the baby's the bend we can't avoid?" Days blurred into a tense standoff, court dates looming like guillotines, alliances fracturing under the strain. Poppy met Lee in a neutral cafe, the clink of spoons against porcelain a counterpoint to their barbed détente. "She's your daughter too, Lee." "That attack? It's on us, all of us, for casting her out." Lee stirred her latte, unflinching. "My daughter died when she chose murder over amends." "Save your poetry, Poppy. It won't unlock cells." But Poppy's hand on hers lingered, a bridge half-built. "Then help me build one for the baby. Co-parent from afar, if nothing else." Lee pulled away, but softer. "For the child, maybe." Electra, haunted, confessed to Ridge in his office, sketches forgotten on the desk. "Uncle Ridge, I called the cops. Now this? Blood on my hands." Ridge pulled her close, his embrace paternal thunder. "You did right, kid. Justice isn't tidy, but it's necessary." Luna's path was hers. The baby's future is brighter without her chains. Yet, in his eyes, a flicker of the cost, the endless cycle of bold hearts breaking beautiful. And Luna, transferred back to Gen Pop under heightened guard, stared at the barred window, the outside world a taunt. "We'll get out, baby," she vowed, hand on swell. "Mommy's bold, daddy's beautiful. Together, unbreakable." But in the quiet, doubt whispered, Jeopardy loomed, not just in bars, but in the hearts she'd scarred.